Hello everyone, dear friends. My name is Sergey Kalashnikov and I am the founder and creator of the SMET N2 mobile application. Today, we will get acquainted with our product and go through all of its features in detail. After you have downloaded the app, you need to register in it. Go through the introduction steps and proceed to the registration stage. The first step is to choose your specialization. What do you do? This will help us tailor our app to your needs as much as possible. We do turnkey renovations, so we select the company, choose the city, enter our details and phone number, and click register. Now we should receive an SMS code. Enter the code and you'll land on the main page of our app, where you'll find a demo project. Let's start with the most important thing. To start using the app effectively and to its fullest, we need to do the following. To begin setting up this app, go to the main menu. There are tips available during the mobile app exploration stage and you can review each section. Let's go to the settings. There are also hints that will tell you what each section is for. I'll show you from my own experience what you need to do first. Let's start from the bottom. You can choose a convenient theme for yourself, either light or dark, and select the unit of measurement for entering data. For example, when we enter the dimensions of a room or the sizes of openings. And it's up to you. Some prefer millimeters, others centimeters or meters. Let's choose centimeters. You can select the language, your location, the currency, and the city is already selected for us. To continue working, you need to fill out your account. Enter your company details, organization name, address. You can enter your email, phone number, and company information. You can also add links to social networks, although certain networks are specified here. You can display any links to your social networks or your portals here, and they will be shown. As a result, in the header of your estimate, you save the data and you also go to the company details section to fill in your company information, TIN, KPP, correspondent account, settlement account, and BI key. We also have the option to set up two headers. By default, the estimate includes the first header, preliminary estimate for repair and construction works. And you can change it, enter your own data, and modify it as needed. You also fill in these sections if you want them to appear in the header of your profile as well. You can also add your company's logo. That's it, we've entered the company information. Now let's move on to further settings. The most important part of preparing an estimate is the types of work and materials. We need to initially set up all the data for your types of work, because when we install the mobile app, we have a list of tasks, but they are not assigned to any particular specialist or any classification of specialist or company. Or for example, the types of work you specialize in might not be present in the mobile app at all. Let's move on to the introduction and the settings for the types of work section. We also have a tutorial that guides you on where to click to set up your mobile app. As part of our work, it is essential to set up and prepare the entire list of items, or modify it, or add to it, or create new sections and fill them in so that you can work fully. What do we have? We have a list of section types. For example, ceiling, walls, floor, doors, windows, plumbing, electrical, ventilation, and so on. If you do other types of work that aren't listed, you can add them. Click the plus sign at the bottom to add, for example, concrete work and its applicability. That's how it's done. Applicability, for example, if your type of work requires automatic calculations, you need to enter data for all indicators. For instance, our concrete work is mainly related to walls, floors, and ceilings. For example, concrete work on the slab will be included. Floor perimeter, square meters, volume, floor area, cubic meters of the floor. That's it, we've created the section. And now we have a new section. In this section, it's currently empty, but we can create types of work and work groups, such as pouring, slabs, and ceilings. If you need to create an additional stage for these types of work, you can create a stage and link this type of work to the stages. I'll show you how to do this a bit later. You can assign it as either installation or demolition work and set the unit of measurement. If we're pouring a slab, the unit is cubic meters. We can set the price and we can also set the contractor's price. What is the contractor's price? If you're a company or you have subcontractors you work with, then you already have a clear price. For your subcontractors, you can set this price right from the start, so you don't have to apply a coefficient when forming the contractor's price. We also have two checkboxes at the bottom. Windowsills, top 10, top 10. This is, for example, if you have a large list of tasks and the tasks are always arranged in alphabetical order. If you want your task to always appear at the top of the list, you check the top 10 box and your task will be at the top of the list. You can also add materials and specify material consumption. Let's say, for example, we have cement and we need, say, 22 bags per 1 cubic meter. We enter the numbers. I'll just make them up off the top of my head. We've added the materials, created the task, entered all the data for our task, and now we save it. Now we have a type of work that already includes the materials, and this applies to any of the sections. You can easily add to, or indeed significantly modify, any existing type of work that has already been created and is currently in existence. You can change its name, the stage, the unit of measurement, the price, the contractor's price. You can also change the type of material so that the app is customized specifically for you. At the initial stage, when you start working in the app, it's essential to create your own database of tasks. If you use rough materials and sell them to the client yourself, and you always need an accurate calculation of materials, you can also link all the materials you need and use them within your company. We also have the ability to create groups of tasks. What is a group? A group of tasks, let's break it down. A group of tasks is a list of works that includes those tasks used in a technological process, for example, creation. For example, in this case, we prepare the walls for wallpapering, and to prepare the walls for wallpapering, there is a certain sequence of tasks that follow one after another. In this way, a layer is formed that leads to the final result. For example, in this case, we have added 5 tasks. First, we prepare the base, then we prime it, putty it, sand it, and finally, I apply the wallpaper. Within our company, we have 5 types of work, and these 5 types of work are grouped together. When preparing an estimate, this is quite convenient. You don't have to look for 5 separate types of work, you just select the group. It is immediately added with the existing room dimensions. This way, you save time when preparing the estimate and you can make changes. You can also modify, edit, or delete any type or group of work that you don't need after you've created the entire list of tasks. If the list isn't convenient for you, you can always move any sections into the order that suits you best. As you add work, the estimate will be generated for each section in exactly that order: ceiling, walls, floor. If you need a different order, you can rearrange the sections and organize them in the way that's most convenient and necessary for you. You can also edit any of the sections. What else do we have, and what features are included? After you have edited, created, and added types of work, you will have formed your own nomenclature database, which you will use going forward. You can export these types of work. For example, if you have a colleague or a company you work with, you can simply export this file and they can import it for themselves. This nomenclature will then appear under their own account. We also have the option to export these types of work in Excel format. A bit later I'll show you, we'll insert a video clip on how to work specifically with the Excel file on a PC. We also have a synchronization section. You can synchronize all your data with the server. This is done once. And afterwards, if you have 2 or more devices, all your data will be synchronized between them, as long as you have an internet connection. You click Upload Types of Work to the server, they are sent to the server and will be stored there. If your device is lost or something happens to it, God forbid, you can always log in with your account and download all your data from the server. When using a second device, since with the basic subscription, you have the option to work on 2 devices, and you can also work on 2 or more devices. To start working on a new device, you need to take a second step. Go to the main menu of Work Types section and tap the 3 dots in the upper right corner. And to change the default work types to your own, which you have already prepared, you select Load Work Types from Server. This will allow you to pull in all the data you have already customized for yourself from the server. You also have the option to completely delete the entire nomenclature and create your own from scratch with all the work types. All of this is to help you personalize the device as much as possible and work on it more efficiently. We also have the ability to do this not only through an Excel file. You can add the list of materials you use in your work. You can add them directly within the app. To add any material, you need to enter the name of your material. Ready Mix Concrete. Since we created the group, we select cubic meter and set it. Simply set the price to 15,000. Earlier, we created the type of work for concrete. Let's also add a quick hit. Done. 1-to-1. We add it, and now we have the material consumption and save it. We have the slab pouring. There is ready mix concrete. for which we already know the price, for example, from the manufacturer, and we've added it. So when using this item, we already understand that this amount of concrete at this price has been included in our estimate. We also have a nomenclature, a list of materials which you can also customize to your needs. You can change the name of the unit of measurement, quantity and prices, and save these types of materials as well. It's also easier to search for everything using the search function. If you don't need this nomenclature, you can simply delete all the materials and create your own complete list of materials from scratch, using only what you need for your work. We also have an additional section. Stages are absolutely essential so that each and every company, builder or skilled craftsman can effectively create an accurate estimate for themselves in two distinct ways. As they say, there are two types. Either the estimate is organized by stages, or the estimate is already broken down by rooms. For example, if it's within an apartment or rooms, or if it's for some highly specialized work, then we use stages. For example, rough work, finishing work, or preparatory stages. You can also create any stage you need for yourself. For instance, you can save specific types of work. That's it, we have a stage. You can also rearrange the stages in any order you need. You can also edit or delete a stage. Let's go back to the concrete work again. We go in and add the concrete work, saving it. We created a section, we created a type of work, we created a material, we created a stage, and accordingly we fit everything into one section. Next, I'll show you how we will use it and how it will be displayed. After we've set up the types of work, linked the materials to all the necessary types of work, and added the required stages to the necessary materials, we can start creating the project. But before we do, if you happen to have any questions while preparing the estimate or filling out any forms, you can always go to the support section and find the most up-to-date information about the application. You can also ask any questions you have, and we will do our best to address them. We also have a section about the applications, where you can find all the information about the apps and links to our social media through which you can contact us. You can write to us or get in touch, as well as learn more about our application. There is also a notification section where our push notifications are delivered. We have some promotions in the company related to subscriptions, and if there are any new updates or new features that can help make your company or your work as efficient as possible, we will let you know. That's it, we've reached the main screen. We have a demo project. The demo project is there so you can get familiar with the structure of creating an estimate. In this case, it's an apartment, a one-room apartment. You can familiarize yourself with the demo project. But we're starting from the beginning. To create a new one, in this section we enter information about our project. For example, let's start with a new housing complex. Enter the new address and input the client's details, first name, last name and patronymic. Later, this information will be the first to appear when you send your estimate, for example, to a sales manager or directly to clients. All the estimate data, the name, address and client information will also be sent along with the Excel or PDF file to your client. And later, when you enter the first name, last name and patronymic of your customer, they will be displayed in the work completion certificate and the email address. If there is an email, you can enter it as well. Save. We have created the project. Within the project, you can add a photo or take a photo for the project. At the next stage, we add a room or a section. It doesn't matter. If you specialize in a specific type of work, you can call it a section. For example, if it's electrical work, plumbing or also concrete work. Since we started with concrete work, let's name the section concrete work. Let's enter the dimensions of our future room or of the house, for example, and let's enter a thickness of 120, for instance. Add it if necessary. If you need to calculate the volume, for example, or the area of a wall or ceiling, we can also add this data. But in this case, our scenario is based on volume. The next step is to enter the type of work to be done. For example, we had concrete work. We calculated 48 cubic meters. That's what's needed. We add it, and now we have the price. Let me show you visual. We added the type of work. The material we use is immediately set. Ready mix concrete and the cost of the material. We saved it. For example, at this stage, we've completed the concrete work and we can even generate an estimate by stages. This will be the work and the material as well. That's 720,000 for materials, 240,000 for labor, and the total estimate will be 960,000. But let's look at more extensive scenarios. For example, next we'll have the shell, which will finish in the future when we do the renovation. For example, a bedroom. In the spacious and comfortable bedroom, the dimensions will be precisely 300 by 350 units, with a generous height of 250 units. This provides ample space. If there are openings, we specify the openings. For example, if possible, we can specify a window, an opening, a door, a window, a door, junctions to the ceiling or floor, a through opening, an opening in the floor or ceiling. These are stairwells. We also have the option to add square and round columns. When adding a column, we add the area of the column to the walls, and wherever the column is located, we subtract its volume from the ceiling and floor. If, for example, we have two identical windows, we can copy them. We can also edit, copy, or delete the data for the opening. And let's go ahead and add a door. After all, what's a space without a door? In the Windows section, we have a checkbox for a windowsill. If you need to calculate the windowsill separately, you can check the box, and the windowsill will automatically be calculated in the next step. Once we've entered all the data, we move on to filling in the types of work, and I'll explain right away. When entering data, for example, for openings, we subtract their area from the walls. Any opening, I subtract its area from the walls, ceiling, or floor. Or in the case of columns, their area is added to the walls and subtracted from the ceiling and floor. But in this, let's say, rough section, the areas are shown in their pure form without any deductions. The deductions are already reflected directly when adding the work, for example, priming. When we add it, the area is already shown with the deduction, not 32.5, but here the area is 28.5. Let's start from the top. For example, I'll show you how the group function works. We click on the group, and with one click, we immediately add 3 tasks at once. You can also go into any type of work, save, change, make some adjustments, and edit while entering data. If you have demolition work, you can go to the demolition section. For example, dismantling a stretched ceiling. That's it, and then we go back to the installation section and so on for each section and all types of work. For the types of work you need to add, you add them all. For anything that needs to be removed, we add removal. Let's quickly zoom in. As you can see, adding a group of tasks is as convenient as possible. With one click, you add 5 tasks, and for each task, the work volume is already calculated. Let's say if you're an electrician or a plumber, for example, you can already enter your own items in the electricians and plumbers section. Unfortunately, we can't calculate anything automatically, so we enter everything manually. For example, we add a panel, cable, the required amount, the required cable, and in this way, you can fully enter your own list of items, which will later allow you to create a complete estimate. You can also add those installation works that need to be removed. We also have a calculator section under types of work, which allows you to quickly perform specific calculations and add this data. The calculator is also integrated and has performed calculations for the quantity and cost of work, making it as convenient as possible to enter the data. Once you have entered all the data, we can move on to the materials section. We already have materials attached to the types of work, and the consumption has been specified. For example, the consumption of a material is specified per a certain number of square meters, or linear meters, or cubic meters, or pieces. For example, if 1 bag is not enough for 1 square meter, we can specify a consumption of 1 and 2 bags per square meter. In any case, you need to specify the consumption of 1 unit of material for a certain number of meters and then save it. Now we have already added 2 rooms. Also, if we have identical rooms or spaces or certain types of work, we can copy them. After copying, we go in and edit the name. For example, children's room, edit the volume or rather the dimensions, edit the example of the opening, and so that we don't have to fill in the work again, we can simply recalculate. And all types of work where the volume was calculated automatically will now adjust to the new dimensions, for example 37 square meters. Here we had 43 square meters, the area of the window and door was subtracted, and we save it. In our application you can calculate rooms not only of simple rectangular shapes but also of complex shapes. Let me show you how it's done. We click on complex shape, and to start we can make a table in the format we need. With swipes we select custom shape and draw it, clicking on the points. Not necessarily every one, but every second, third, and so on. Draw the room in whatever way is convenient for you in the shapes you need, and don't connect the last points. Just tap the check mark at the bottom. Now we have the shape of our future room. If the size turns out to be too big or too small, you can tap on any wall and easily stretch, move or adjust it as you like. This way, you can create a shape for your future room that is more suitable for you in terms of size, not just appearance. The next step, once we have the shape, we enter the exact measurements. I always recommend starting with the largest wall and then entering the measurements one by one, either clockwise or counterclockwise. And make sure not to skip a single wall. Even if a wall matches the required size, just click on the wall, press, for example, enter, and move on to the next wall. By pressing enter, you lock in the length. If you need to lock not just the length, but also the position, click on the position as well, and that way your wall won't be able to move anywhere. The walls that don't have their length or position locked can be moved freely in any direction. We've successfully entered the essential data for one specific wall, and we will diligently continue this process, for example, by carefully entering the relevant data for each and every wall in a systematic turn. Let's assume for now that we have meticulously entered all the necessary data so that the total calculated area of the entire room is determined as precisely and accurately as humanly possible. Now we need to enter the height. The height is entered by clicking on any of the walls. We have pop-up menus in this menu. You can enter the height of your future room in the top right corner and press enter. This way you can see the height, total area and perimeter displayed in the bottom left corner. If, for example, your specific room has noticeably convex walls, you can simply enter the precise radius measurement, and consequently your room will then have beautifully rounded walls. After we have entered the data and have a room with the required dimensions, we save it and move on. If you need to calculate the cubic meter, you enter the thickness of the walls, ceiling or floor. This way, you are already preparing for future data entry and calculations. You also add openings and proceed to add types of work. I will enter them in groups to make this as quick as possible. Also, when filling in the types of work, the materials that were previously preset in the basic version are automatically pulled in. If these materials do not suit you, you can also delete or edit any of the materials, the quantity, price or name. And we save everything. Basically, the template is ready. The next step, after you have entered all the data, calculated and added the types of work, we generate the estimate. As I mentioned earlier, estimates are generated by stages. For example, we put the concrete stage at the top, and this is currently a placeholder. The following stages will be displayed in order below, and types of work that do not have stages will appear at the very bottom. First, the general section, and then the list of materials. Let's move on to a more classic format by rooms. We can also use sections or rooms, it doesn't matter. Here we see the complete list of works, which we can also review. If something doesn't suit us, we can edit it, for example. Change the volume to 45 and save it. We've changed the volume and the estimate is automatically recalculated for us. We also check the estimate and the materials. At the initial stage, before sending, we can do this. There is a percentage icon. We can apply a discount to the work, a discount to the materials, or also set a markup coefficient. When using a markup coefficient, for example, 30%, the coefficient is most often applied in cases where there is regional remoteness or complexity of the work. For example, our cost for concrete work was 5,000. You can see 5,000 in the base version. Here it already shows 6,500, and in the generated estimate it will also display exactly 6,500. Once we've entered all the data, applied discounts and set the coefficients, we're done. Before sending, you can always update the material prices by clicking Update Prices, and the existing materials we have will be updated to the current prices within the Russian Federation. The next step after sending. Before dispatching the document, we can immediately and efficiently input the specific contract identification number and meticulously establish the precise date that is required for this particular transaction or agreement. Also, the estimate can be sent in 3 formats. It can be sent without materials. It can be sent with materials or with materials broken down by rooms. As you can see, concrete works. We have 6,500, as I mentioned, and materials for this room, the bedroom, and materials for it, and children's room materials for it. Or in the classic format. Also, the materials are listed at the bottom. You can send the file in either Excel or PDF format. After your client agrees to the work, what else can we do? Within our estimate, the first thing we can do is this. We can create a contractor's estimate showing the contractor's price. If you have colleagues, hired employees, or subcontractors who work at rates lower than those you charge your client, you can use those prices. For example, earlier when we created the concrete works, we specified the contractor's price, and it was 3,000 rubles. In this case, when forming the contractor's estimate, this price is already specified right away. If, for example, we apply a coefficient of 35 to 40%, we use the price at which the contractor's rate is set. It does not change for the work where the contractor's price is specified. For those where it is not specified, the coefficient applies. When you specify the coefficient, you are already reducing the cost of each job by the percentage you indicated. And the entire estimate already takes into account, roughly speaking, the discount for your contractor. What else? For example, you have different contractors and different project sites. You can create a separate estimate for each contractor and send it in Excel or PDF format. You can also remove a job from it. For example, this is one contractor working for us and this is another contractor working for us. These jobs are done by a third contractor. And for each contractor, you can create a mini estimate and send it, and within the scope of that estimate, they will work. After you have taken the measurements, prepared the estimate, and your estimate has already been signed by your client, during the course of the work, it is necessary to make sure to prepare acts and invoices. How are acts prepared? An act is prepared in the same way. You click on any of the items to generate acts, and you can send all the acts in Excel or PDF format. As I mentioned earlier, you can look at the top of the header to see that Ivan Ivanovich, that is the first name, middle name and last name. The patronymic that was entered in the estimate is now displayed in the act. There is the name of the act, Appendix 2, and the fully generated document. You send it, sign it, and receive the payment, also in Excel or PDF format. If you need to add some additional specific work to an existing act, you simply select the particular work and then carefully add it to that act, thereby effectively incorporating the new work into the already existing act. And in precisely the same manner, you can proceed to create various other acts as well. Within the estimate, you can also generate invoices for your clients, partners, or stores. Just select the items and create the invoice. You can also delete certain items, either in Excel or PDF format. If you have signed a contract and, for example, an advance payment has already been made, you can change the status of the contract. And when you exit, the status of your contract will already be updated, and you can filter your contracts by their statuses. Let's go back once more to the menu section. At the very bottom of the main screen, you can see the version of your application. Always keep an eye on the latest version update, as we are constantly refining and improving our application. Now, let's move on to the room types section. We haven't visited this section before. When creating rooms and sections, they are not added automatically. Let me explain why this is necessary. This is necessary so that you have autofill and don't have to enter the entire section every time you fill out an estimate, or a room or a space. These rooms will already be in this section, and you can also, for example, add any section or any room name, and it will be available to you quickly. When you type the first letter, it will automatically pop up. Now, let's move on to the most interesting part. Within our app, after downloading and registering, you have 14 days of access in the home mode format. You have full access to all features and can use the app to its maximum potential. But after 14 days, you will need to purchase a subscription. What does the subscription offer? The subscription can be purchased for a month, 3 months, half a year, or a year. You can grant yourself unlimited access to creating projects and tasks. In general, all the features of our app will be available for your use. The app is differentiated not only by subscription duration, but also by the number of devices. The basic subscription allows you to work on 2 devices, and there are also subscriptions for 5, 10, and 25 devices. If your team has more than 25 people, we can create a custom plan for you. Use our tool. You will be able to create detailed estimates more quickly and efficiently, which will allow you to earn much more and become more effective. Become a true master after you download the Shadi file. Open it, and at the bottom you will see tabs where you can view the sections for each category you previously created. There are sections, and the sections are divided into columns. Let's show how the columns are separated. The first type is demolition or installation work, then the name, which is the title, the unit of measurement, and accordingly the stages. If you have a stage linked to a type of work, you can specify it right here. This is a group. No, that just means it's a type of work. Yes, that means it's a group. You can create a group name in this file, but unfortunately you can't actually create a group of works. The price, the contractor's price, and the top 10. I've mentioned before that PT10 is a function that allows you to move your type of work to the very top, regardless of alphabetical order. And the following rows are technical rows. We don't touch them, so what can we do within the file? We can edit all existing works and delete the ones we don't need. When we delete, we remove the rows. We delete the rows together, but we don't leave any empty fields. For example, like this. You can't leave it like this, because then the file won't upload. If you need to add a new and specific type of work, you can simply begin adding it at the very bottom of the list. For example, we currently have installation work, which is a common type of service. Filling, and also the various slabs, and furthermore the ceilings and other related structures. We do meters, cubic. We have tons of important work to do at the moment. This is our name. I enter the price if there is a contractor price, 5,000 for the contractor if needed, and in this way you create a list for yourself. If you already have a ready-made price list, for example, that you work with, you can simply copy and fill in all the rows. Each section also has a materials section. Here you can conveniently enter the comprehensive list of all the various materials you personally work with for yourself. For example, we can also smoothly scroll down the entire list, and you are able to add as many specific job names, precise units of measurement, and detailed job costs as you genuinely want to the very bottom. And after you have completely filled in and meticulously edited the entire file, please remember to carefully save this important file. Then go to the app, to the sections and types of work, and select Upload Types of Work from Excel. Click Search for your file, do a full replacement, and upload your file. In this way, you add all your changes and the entire file is now available in the app. You can work fully and efficiently. This will greatly increase your efficiency in creating your types of work, and later for the jobs you've added, you can also add materials that you've included in this list. By doing so, you create a database for yourself that will make it efficient to work with and to prepare estimates for your clients.